This is Kari Kounkel, and today I'm reading an excerpt from my book, Unspoken Sorrow, Whispers from a Broken Heart. Thursday, April 10th, 1997 was a clear and cold day. Our bus, number 63, had made several stops in the second of its morning routes. The bus approached the intersection of County Roads 39 and 11, just west of Monticello, Minnesota, traveling 45 miles per hour and carrying 13 elementary-age students. Meanwhile, two gravel trucks approached the intersection from the south, traveling approximately 55 miles per hour. Failing to yield for the stop sign, the first truck entered the intersection. As it crossed the intersection, our bus hit the passenger side of the truck. The force of the initial collision decelerated the truck to 49 miles per hour, while the bus accelerated to a speed between 46 and 50 miles per hour. The empty bed of the gravel truck pushed forward from the force of the initial impact, and the front right corner hit the midsection of the bus, tearing a small hole in the side panel. Still traveling at high speeds, the truck bed slammed with force into the rear of the seating compartment. The force of the collision propelled the two vehicles at cross angles into the ditch northwest of the intersection. The truck hit a utility pole, shearing it off at midpoint. When the bus encountered its final impact as it left the roadway and settled in the ditch, the alternator and front duals separated from the bus. Both vehicles plowed through the earth, leaving deep furrows, before finally coming to a rest in the field adjacent to the intersection. The actual duration of the collision was less than 2 seconds. The truck had traveled 97 feet and the bus 109 feet from the point of the initial collision. In the force of the collision, the truck's air ride seat had bottomed out and sprung, destroying the seatbelt mechanism. The driver's head made contact with the passenger side frame of the truck, and that injury resulted in the driver's death, though heroic efforts were made to save his life. Inside the bus, the 13 students and the bus driver were unconscious. 3 of the students were fatally injured. The bus driver regained consciousness and untangled herself from the dash that had been pushed back and crumpled around her body, and the seatbelt she'd wrapped around the seat. By the time she was making her way to the first of the students, help in the form of neighbors arrived. I have never been able to fully articulate what it was like to drive around the corner that morning and see that mangled bus in the ditch. People used the word chilling to describe it. I saw and registered the kids and the rescue workers, the truck driver, the bystanders, the media. The closer I moved, the more surreal the scene. A boy's body lay at the side of the ditch, covered with a blanket. Another small boy rested alongside the bus, a female officer I recognized working desperately over his inert body. I later learned that she saved his life, but her efforts left her uncertain about continuing to serve as a deputy. In another vignette, etched so indelibly in my mind, a young girl chatted to the first responder leaning toward her. In the bright light of the ambulance interior, I saw her foot bang rhythmically against the bench underneath her. Without diminishing any of the life and death struggles taking place around me, the already overwhelming sense of grief, or the intensity of the rescuers carrying out their life-saving tasks, my vision narrowed and I could only truly see the school bus. In those moments, it was as if time slowed and my senses heightened. I will never forget how it smelled. A heavy and oily burnt smell I sometimes catch when the road has been resurfaced or when I enter a repair shop. I made note of so many things that day: how twisted the bus chassis looked, how the body of the bus had shifted and rested as oddly as the chassis. There was a scrape along the side and debris on one of the windows. The back emergency exit was open. Everywhere I looked, I saw indicators of students: backpacks, shoes, papers, sports equipment. Their things were scattered everywhere, and those things would haunt my dreams for years to come, as would things I never saw. In my most frequently recurring nightmare, I saw a river of blood pouring out the rear door. In the river floated baseballs, toy ponies, and race cars. For many years after having those dreams, I would look at the pictures to remind myself that what I was seeing wasn't real. Having never let go of the memories of the April events in 1997, I have written the story of that tragic event from my perspective, with the full knowledge that it is not the only perspective. I certainly hope this story will resonate with others who make decisions about student safety, as well as those who've experienced their own tragic events. It is disheartening to know that in all the intervening years, school bus safety statistics have not changed substantially, and that after every crash, the media writes the exact same headlines, while state and federal legislators author the exact same pieces of legislation. Far more importantly, I hope this story resonates with the survivors and all the families involved in the tragic bus crash 20 years ago. To each family, I have this to say: your children and your father have been in my thoughts and prayers every day since April 10th, 1997. Every day. They matter. This is my tribute to them and to you all. You exhibited dignity and courage through the most horrific of times for your families. You offer grace to my family and to me, to our employees, and to our entire community. There was no place for my grief 20 years ago, I thought. It took me years to realize it wasn't going to dissipate until I let it wash through me, until I truly grieved. No one ever told me grief felt so much like fear, says C.S. Lewis in his book, A Grief Observed. And I was so afraid. My fear manifested in my ever-increasing efforts to control the world around me, to impose order on what felt so frighteningly out of control after the crash, and to perfect the completely imperfect. And then, 3 years ago, my life fell apart horrifically, and recognizing my complete inability to control anything, I fell on my knees. In so doing, I found myself and I found my mission and a new career path. I love the words of Vincent van Gogh that graced my first blog. In spite of everything, I shall rise again. I will take up my pencil, which I have forsaken in my great discouragement, and I will go on with my drawing. Resilience is one of my deeply held values, and with the help of my tribe of friends, the people who held and treasured my truth for me until I could hold it myself, and a fantastic recovery program, I have risen again. I have taken up my pencil, and I have written this tribute. Henry Wordsworth says, "There is no grief like the grief that does not speak." I was quiet for many years, and now I'm speaking. I'm grateful you're listening.